You know, I'm going to give you a history lesson.
We got some dumbass motherfuckers floating around this country.
Stop laughing! And when I do, start.
Also, y'all did some nasty-ass jokes on my ass, too.
Funny jokes and unfunny jokes come out of the same birth.
You f***ing guys are unbelievable.
Why are you laughing?
Evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Why You Laughing, a history of comedy podcast. And today, I am pleased to introduce to you the funeral of Patrice O'Neal on the Opie and Anthony show. This is our yearly Patrice episode, the namesake of this show. If you don't know the origins of this show, or you don't pay attention to the intro, I guess, because you hear his voice every week, this show is actually named after Patrice O'Neal. So we honor the great legend every year by doing a different episode about him. And I held off on this for as long as I could, but it might be my favorite Patrice content in a way. It's odd to say because he's actually not a part of it. And it might also be my favorite piece of Opie and Anthony content, which is also weird. But the day after Patrice O'Neal died, November 30th, 2011, I believe, Opie Anthony, Jim Norton, and a cavalcade of New York comedians get together to reminisce and remember the legend. And I think it was good in a way. In terms of this episode, obviously it's not good for Patrice O'Neal or his family or loved ones. But for this episode, it was kind of good that they had like a month and change to prepare for this. Like, it wasn't a complete shock. Patrice, if you don't know, slipped into a diabetic coma for a period of time. And so everyone kind of knew to some degree that this was coming, or at least prepared for the possibility that it could be coming. And I think that was good because it wasn't a tearful, shocking goodbye to their friend. You can tell they had thought about this a lot, and they thought of great memories of Patrice, and it's not sugar-coated in any way. They talk about great aspects of Patrice and his worst qualities and everything in between. So it really is a cool piece of content, the likes of which you don't really have anywhere else. Like, any eulogy for anyone involved in any show is this sort of tearful goodbye. And in the spirit of the Opie and Anthony show, and probably what Patrice would have wanted, this was not that. There's constant ball busting and jokes, and as we will put on display. And I realize I'm explaining this to people that are probably already aware of it. For most of you, this will just be a nice walk down memory lane. This is an episode that I go back to fairly frequently. But for those of you, I guess, that aren't familiar with Patrice or the Opie and Anthony show, like I said, that's probably a small number of you. But for those of you that aren't, you should check out the full thing. I encourage you. We're going to play a ton of clips. But if you listen to the full thing, there's only so many clips we could have had prepared. So I encourage you to go do that. And you know what else I encourage you to do? It's what Patrice would have wanted.
Yeah.
For you to go to blindmike.net and support the boys. Support us. Not just this show, Why Are You Laughing? You can subscribe wherever you get podcasts, including YouTube. Smash the like button. Subscribe, all that good stuff. It helps more people find the show if you comment and like and all that. But also the Blind Mike Project on this very same YouTube channel or wherever you get podcasts. We go live every Sunday at 10 a.m. So check that out. Also, the links for Who Are These Socials that I do with Carl from Who Are These Podcasts. Those links are at blindmike.net as well. And you can become a member on Patreon or YouTube. Become a member those places, and you get early access and bonus content. You get bonus episodes of Why You Laughing as well, and you get them a week early. So consider becoming a member or just support the show for free. Blindmike.net. We appreciate you guys doing that. Now, a man who never whored himself out like I did was the great Patrice O'Neal. He lived by a real moral code, maybe stricter than anybody, and it has led people, in YouTube comments, like comedy fans now hold comedians to that standard where it's almost become a hack thing to, not almost, it has become like a hack thing to put in people's comments. Oh, what would Patrice say about this? But that comes from a good place in that it is such a shame Patrice died at 41 years old, and you think he would still like be in his prime, really, right now. And we missed out on so much. And we'll hear like Louis talk about this and other guys where like he was really just coming into his own as a comedian. The only one to me similar is Norm Macdonald. And Norm was older when he passed, but you see what Norm was doing for so long. And, you know, if he did start a podcast or do whatever, you know, some sort of regular content, you see how much Norm content there already is out there. How much more could we have gotten? And it would have been so interesting to hear Norm's take on all the stuff going on in the world right now. And that is true of Patrice as well. And he's one of those guys where you can go, you know, much like people do with Carlin or Bill Hicks or whoever, where you're like, oh, I would have loved to see Patrice skewer this topic. But like if Patrice were alive, he very well might have the opposite take of what you think he would have. Or not even the opposite, where it's some angle that we never even would have constructed in our own minds. So that's the type of brilliant mind that we lost. And Opie and Anthony were tasked with having to kind of encapsulate that in a 4-hour show. And this is how they start, which, like I said, the beauty of this episode is that it really is like any other episode of Opie and Anthony in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And if I know you said like that part, but if they did start to get sappy, they got immediately crushed.
Yeah, like they would kind of reminisce, but it would go right back to ball busting. And this is how they started. Like I think, particularly Opie and Anthony only know how to go this route. I think maybe Jim could get a little more sentimental left to his own devices.
Yeah,
but Opie and Anthony are like, how do we start this thing? And this I thought was the perfect way to do it.
I guess we start with I don't even know, man.
That news story, that Fox story was perfect.
You like that? Kevin from Connecticut. I mean, you know, in the end, we got to try to laugh. Kevin writes, Patrice looked terrible for 14 years old.
Oh, God. Yeah.
You want to play that?
Yeah, play that.
Kickstart us and get us going. Yeah, obviously, we lost our dear friend, Patrice O'Neal.
You're kidding.
And,
well, see what I mean right out of the gate? Like Anthony's doing voices and it's a time where Anthony's discomfort with emotion is like kind of a great thing. Because I don't think Opie and Anthony fans wanted to turn to this episode and sob or think of the awful aspects of life. I think they wanted to laugh and hear Anthony do silly shit like you already hear him doing.
Yesterday, the only one. It was just a horrible
Because
day.
Again, the news.
Because
again.
And you know what? Of course. Just listen very closely to this clip.
Yeah.
Sad news tonight from the entertainment world. Comedian Patrice O'Neal has died. O'Neal died this morning from complications from a stroke he suffered last month. The Boston native appeared in September's Comedy Central's roast of Charlie Sheen, where his struggle with diabetes was a punchline for many jokes. O'Neal was a well-known presence on talk shows in the stand-up industry and was a frequent guest on the Opie and Anthony radio show. He was 14 years old.
That's a hell of a career.
14.
It is weird that a newscaster wouldn't catch himself and be like, hold on, 14. That's too much of a resume.
I mean, he must have dyslexia, right?
I think my assumption is they typed it wrong, and that's a guy that'll just read whatever you put on the screen, you know?
Classic Burgundy.
Yeah. But yeah, a perfect way, like the day Patrice dies, they start mocking the media. Like it is perfect Opie and Anthony. And if you say, like, none of us know what Patrice would have wanted, maybe he would have wanted them to be a little sadder that he passed. But I do think, like, that would be the perfect way to start. If you could have asked him while he was alive, he would say, just start, like, mocking shit. Don't do a different show, you know?
Right. Next, you have Voss.
So Voss called in perfect Voss fashion. He was not in New York, which I think is actually a good thing for this episode. Bobby ends up taking the mantle of the guy that gets the shit beat out of him for being dumb. I think if Voss was there, it might have become too much of a Voss roast, you know? It was almost a good thing that he wasn't in the room, but you get some Vossisms out of the way early when he calls in.
Rich Voss is on the line. Mr. Voss, how are you, sir?
How's it going?
Hey, buddy. Well, we're just trying to, I don't know what we're trying to do. We're here, though. How are you, buddy?
I've had nonstop anxiety. I'm devastated. and it's all because I spelled his name wrong.
Yes. Only Rich.
I guess.
Only Rich.
I don't know who had it, but Huffington Post had like everyone's tweets. I think it was them, and Rich was the only one that
Spelled his name wrong. But that's
honestly,
perfect, Rich.
Yeah.
You coming from you, that's perfect.
Yeah, he wouldn't have had it any other way.
Yes.
It's like they talk a lot about an article that was posted where they use like celebrities' tweets instead of Colin or Norton or like his true friends. And Norton points to one where Seth Meyers, and this isn't Seth Meyers' fault, he didn't know Patrice, but he tweets out something like, "Hey, a day watching Patrice O'Neal clips is a day well spent." And Norton goes, "Boy, spoken like a guy who really knew him. I'm glad they put that in there." But so it is perfect, Voss, that you have these people that didn't know him, kind of trying to summarize his career, and Voss, who's known him forever, is like, "How do you spell his name, Bonnie?" But that is perfect, Voss, and you hear there, particularly at the beginning of the clip, the first half of this episode is definitely sadder than the. Yeah. It absolutely gets lighter, and I think that's just because the volume of people in the studio and the amount of comedians. Like it becomes much more ball busty and even at times less about Patrice as the 4 hours go on. But earlier it is definitely a little sadder in tone because they're kind of trying to find their footing, and it is a lot more reminiscing about Patrice in a little somber way, which I think is to be expected.
Yeah, and this was the night before, wasn't it?
So he died the day before during the show. Actually, they talk about it where. Gary Oldman is coming in to be interviewed, and Norton grabs his phone and runs out of the studio and comes back, and they could tell he's like changed, like something happened. But he bit his tongue, and they interviewed Gary Oldman, which we should maybe for a bonus episode or so. I should see if I can find that interview just to see if there's anything unusual about it. But,
Norton being like, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sobbing the whole time. You can barely tell. No, but like Norton said, it was good, kind of a nice distraction to be able to talk to Gary Oldman for a little while, take his mind off it. They didn't announce it right there, obviously, because Vaughn, Patrice's girlfriend, wanted to tell her daughter before it got out there and she saw it on Twitter or anything like that. So basically the family wanted to announce it the way they wanted to. So Norton didn't say it on the radio.
As they should be allowed to do.
Of course. Yeah.
Nowadays, it's like people are reporting people who aren't even dead because they want to be first.
Right. So it is almost exactly 24. It's 20 hours later, basically, when they start the show.
Yeah.
Which is, like I said, crazy, not totally unexpected. They were kind of anticipating the idea of this for a while. But with a lot of that stuff, you are hopeful. You're like, well, maybe he can slip out of it,
Especially the longer it goes on, you're like, whoa, he's lasted this long.
Right. So, less than 24 hours later.
Next, we have Patrice's take.
So I think they're talking about like what Patrice would have said. Like they, kind of what we were just talking about, where you'd like to hear what Patrice thinks about this. And there's so many instances. I mean, Donald Trump, COVID, like there's 10 million things we could point to and be like, I'd love to hear what Patrice says about this. And that actually started right out of the gate.
Me laugh because Patrice just would have said, just admit you didn't know me.
Yeah, right.
Just say it.
Right.
You didn't care. You didn't know me. Give a fuck.
Right. Exactly.
That's the weird, twisting, ironic thing of this whole thing is I would love to hear Patrice's take on his death. And the way people are reacting to it, because it would just be stuff like that. Like, you don't know what the fuck that's what it would be.
I think if you were able to get through his outer shell, and this is going to sound so hokey, but he would absolutely appreciate this.
He would appreciate it. Sure.
Yeah, he'd appreciate it, but he would fucking make fun of quite a few things.
He was on guard most of the time, but you were able to get in there.
He would call.
He always has his finger off the pulse. Yeah, so like I think it's such a great point. Now, by the way, it's very easy to say like, oh, this is what Patrice would have said. I've already done it. I pontificated about how no one knows what Patrice would say. And then I already did, like, he probably would have said this about this.
Mhm.
So it's very easy to slip into, but you just kind of have to tell yourself, like, we don't know. Anthony's firing is a thing that everyone has always said. I wish Patrice was around. I wish we could have heard what Patrice would have said. And it might have totally changed how all that played out.
I was going to say, he's probably the one person that could have saved his job.
I don't know about saved his job, but I think maybe saved his relationship with a lot of those comedians. I think a lot of people would have handled it differently if Patrice had spoken on it. They kind of would have followed Patrice's lead. I think there's a lot of people that abandoned Anthony because there was no vocal leader in that group, and maybe Patrice would have been that person. Maybe he wouldn't have. Like I said, we don't know. But that's a perfect example of something where a lot of people were like, God damn, I wish Patrice was here to talk about this.
Well, if Patrice came out and said Anthony isn't racist, which he didn't have any single person doing that,
right,
could have changed how it played out.
Yeah.
Next we have a listener.
Okay. Oh, I think they're talking about Patrice being a good listener, not a thank God, not a caller.
You always knew Patrice was done with you too, because he'd call you up and he would say whatever it was he had to discuss, and then you'd go like, "Yeah, man, my relationship's in trouble," and he'd go, "You saw tonight? All right, scumbag, I get it. Time to go." My ears were available for your fucking dissertation, and now you got to call someone else and repeat yourself.
You hear the laugh of Joe Rogan on the phone and Joe DeRosa in studio. Joe Rogan and Bill Burr will be the other voices you'll hear on the phone, as well as Rich Voss. Everyone else was in studio, but those guys were all on the road, or Rogan was in probably California at the time, so they just called in. I believe the day after this, I think it was the day after, Dane Cook and possibly Kevin Hart. I forget exactly. I haven't gone back to that one as much, but I know Dane Cook was in the next day and told some great Patrice stories as well.
That's the thing that people don't realize is, like, the two of them were like best friends for a while.
Patrice loved Dane and really defended him, went on Maron, and really vocally disagreed with how Maron handled Dane.
Shout out Patrice.
Yeah.
Next we have communication.
Okay.
Phone yesterday, and I called him up, and I'm like, "Did you hear about Patrice?" He's like, "Yeah." And we realized there was nothing to say, so we just go, "Sucks, fucking sucks."
Yeah,
sucks,
that's all you can really
sucks.
say. And
then he said, "He goes, you know what? It's better that than him not being able to talk."
Oh yeah,
that's been something a lot of people have said too. Yeah.
Yeah, for Patrice, fuck yeah. Yeah. Can you imagine the torture of not being able to point out the stupid shit that you see all around you?
I know, right?
And not even the talking too. It's like to not be able to like communicate. Like if you can't, like, even to little things like nodding or gesturing, where you can at least let people know what you want. And anything that happens, people would know is because you want it to happen. That would kill him too. If he could just nod, and we had to just fucking Voss yapping to him at a coffee shop. That Bonnie was you'd see him just crack his own neck. Yeah. Just fucking throw his head on the pavement.
Great line by Bobby there. Everyone kind of had their moment on this episode too. Everyone that came in, for the most part, like Bobby gets shit on later in the episode, but he really shined in this early part. So everyone that kind of came on had their chance to tell Patrice stories and get funny lines in. And like I said, like, you hear already Norton calling Patrice a scumbag for not listening to him. And Bobby Kelly creating the image of him cracking his own neck because Voss is yapping away. And so like I said, it's a much funner, Irish Wake style than like a somber, like, he was a better man than he was a comedian, and he was one heck of a comedian. You didn't get any of that horse shit really, which is very nice and very fitting. And the image of Patrice in a hospital bed, being conscious but not being able to speak, and Voss talking about his dates on the road. It really is like there should be a cartoon made of that. If Coke Logic is still around, there should be a cartoon of that.
Next we have complete friendship.
Yeah, and like I said, there are like sentimental moments where Norton talks about his friendship with Patrice.
It's funny. It's like I'm grateful. I said to somebody, like, I had a very complete friendship with him. Like, there's nothing that I say, like, I wish I had said this.
Right.
I wish I had expressed that. Like, we traveled together. We did
You said
gigs
that to me.
together. Oh, was it to you?
Yeah,
Okay.
apparently we don't have that, but go ahead.
No, I'm right here, Jim. I'm right here. I remember it. You should.
You told me that last week too.
Oh, okay. I didn't remember. Fucking shit friend he is. It's I don't know who I said it to, but I had a complete friendship with fuck you. I didn't remember. You were just a big pair of fat ears. I was saying it to. Sorry. I guess I should write down in a notebook, said to Bob. All right, so listen. I was talking to this fat fuck that I know. Jesus Christ. Sorry, Bob.
Like Craig said, they were never really allowed to get too emotional because I think Bobby makes the point at some point. It's like, we're the most emotional people on the planet. That's why we don't get emotional, because we can't handle it. We're uncomfortable with it because they're constantly so much. Because I think Opie tries to make the point incorrectly, as he so often is. But he's like, yeah, you guys never have emotions. And Bobby was like, what are you, crazy? We always have emotions. We sprint from them, but we have them. Which really is, I think in a lot of ways more helpful to people listening. Like, maybe if you're going through something, it might help you to listen to some self-help podcast or something like that. But to a lot of people, myself included, I think this shit is much more helpful. Like when you can't make yourself laugh, looking to someone else to kind of guide you into a happier direction is much more palatable for someone like me. So I that's why I appreciate this episode so much.
Next, we have Bobby Kelly talking about the surprise party.
This is a great story.
Yes.
And it's something at that point. By the way, there's a ton of stuff that they talk about. Like they talk about, it's the first time, maybe of 11,000 times that Joe Rogan brings up that Fox News clip.
Yeah.
The famous Fox News clip that this show is named after, actually. Rogan has brought that up 10 million times since, but this is the first time I had ever heard of it, I think, listening to this episode when it happened. So they talk about a lot of classic Patrice stuff that we've talked about in the past. I tried to steer away from that and do more things we haven't gotten to touch on, like this, which I think is a very funny Patrice story.
I'm going to tell you what a fucking piece of shit he could be, too. I'm going to tell you a story right now that I've never told anybody.
I got a couple more. I got like 4 more piece of shit stories.
And I love them so much, and I understood them so well that I let this go. But anybody else should have never talked to this fucking idiot. My wife last year, I think it was last year, not this year's October, the last October, she planned a surprise birthday party for me. Huge. Okay, event. It was supposed to be 100 people and fucking burlesque dancers, and then Geraldo passed away on the night that the party was supposed to take place. So she had
that was his wake. Oh, right.
She had to cancel it and make it, literally at the last second, rearrange everything and make it into a small restaurant. And she could only afford a couple, like a small amount of people.
She wanted to roast you. She wanted us to go up and roast you a little bit and fuck with you.
It was going to be huge, a huge event. And she told all my friends. Patrice called me up 2 days before the party, and went, Bobby. And I was like, what's up? He goes, I got to tell you something, man. And I'm like, what's up, man? He goes, your wife's planning a surprise party for you, right? And I'm like, what?
What the fuck?
And he goes, I just want to let you know, man, because I don't like surprises. He goes, I don't know if you like surprises like that. I don't know if you like that type of shit. So and I go, maybe you should have opened with, do you like surprises? And I would have said, yes, I love fucking surprises. I'm a lonely piece of shit. I love surprises.
And this episode also led to a lot of lines that I find myself using, like just stuck in my head for whatever reason. And one of them is DeRosa kept going, I knew you knew. I knew you weren't surprised. And Norton goes, I didn't know if you were surprised. And your level of surprise is a valueless thought to me. A valueless thought to me is stuck in my head. I don't know. I love that phrase so much. But like when you hear Florentine go, I got like 4 more piece of shit stories.
Yeah.
That's what's so beautiful about this. Like this really is a great way to send somebody off, especially someone like Patrice, who never held back on saying anyone about anything. And that's one of the big things they talk about is how self-destructive he could be. And like Opie and Anthony had Chris Rock in to kind of chastise him at some point and say, like, you're fucking up, man. Like, I've wanted to put you in things and I can't because everyone at the network fucking hates you. I can't, there's only so much I can defend you.
Yeah.
And they have like real conversations like that. And you see, and who knows how much any human being can really change how they're wired. And so maybe this is romanticized a bit because, you know, Patrice died. So we can say, oh, everything would have changed. You know, we can play out a perfect fantasy of how things would have gone because it didn't actually happen. But when you go back and listen to the last 2 podcasts he did, I believe, were WTF with Mark Maron and More Stories with Jay Moore, particularly that Jay Moore episode. Maybe next year's Patrice, we kind of did it the first time, but maybe next year's Patrice episode will be that Jay Moore episode because it's one of the most insightful podcasts ever, where you literally hear Patrice ask about podcasting equipment. Like, he was interested in starting a podcast. He was interested in saying yes to more stuff and appreciating like how he is respected in the business and not, you know, trying to self-destruct all that. And Jay Moore is actually getting through to him. And like I said, maybe the next day that would have been erased from his mind and he wouldn't give it any more thought. But like, you look at that podcast and you're like, ah, fuck, he was right on the cusp of really figuring out who he was. And that's the shame, the biggest shame of all of this, among many others.
Next we have Real Talk.
Okay, let's hear it.
I think it's awesome that you have a forum like this where you can actually talk about them real.
Right.
You know, if you were on a regular fucking radio show or if you were, you know, forced to do some TV show just a decade ago, you would have had a horseshit through it.
Yep.
You couldn't really be real or and use every word in your vocabulary. You know, it's so appropriate that we get to talk about this guy in this form.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it feels good because that's exactly the type of guy he was. He didn't want you to soft soap it or bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been crying almost every night for a month. I mean, it's like, you know, it's not like, you know, comedians don't. We're all fucking a wreck over it. It's fucking.
Yeah.
I've been claustrophobic. I haven't been able to sleep. I've been waking up just thinking of him laying there. Like it's been a fucking
I have dreams.
Nightmare.
I have dreams that he gets up. I've been having dreams for the last month that he's up and we're hanging out and he's a little fucked up and he's got a cane, but we're talking and and then you wake up and you're like, ah, fuck, you know.
That's where people always fuck up going after comedians, because it's like, you know, if you make a rape joke or whatever, it's like, so you think rape is funny? It's like, well, no, I think that joke is funny, but also like maybe that's the way I cope with dealing about things that might be personal to me or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you hear all these guys bullshitting and joking about Patrice's death, and then you hear them get real, and Bobby's like, I'm having dreams about it, and Norton's like, I'm crying about it every night. And it's like, so that joking is like helping them in a way. That's where people always fuck up criticizing comedy. And at the beginning of that clip, you hear Rogan kind of credit Opie and Anthony and say, it's great that there's a forum like you know, there's no other time in history except for the one we've been in the last 15 years or so, where you could have a platform kind of to do whatever you want. And that's what Opie and Anthony were kind of at the forefront of, where they could just go on for as long as they wanted. They eventually would have to break for commercials, but there was no real time constraints. And they could have real discussions. And that is one thing I point to with when you hear Rogan, like in early versions like this. I think Rogan gets too much shit now, where it's like, he is a smart guy. He just repeats himself so fucking much.
But he does so many shows, that's bound to happen.
You're like, Joe, we got it. And then his points become tired because so many other people copy him as well. Like, I do think he was a cutting edge guy when he started, and you know, he's just done it so long now that other people have copied him and ripped him off. And
well, look at the YouTube podcast industry. Yeah. Every major interview channel has ripped off Joe Rogan.
Yeah. And people blame Joe Rogan for a guy having a special that ends with some Apple analogy that no one can really follow, you know? I remember privacy is all I'm saying. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that in, that Rogan gets a little too much shit now. Where like he was insightful at one time, and that I think you start to lose touch a little bit when you're worth $450 million. You know?
Yeah. Next we have One of a Kind.
He sure was. So Colin Quinn tweet. He had a great tweet about him where he, I'm butchering it, but Colin said something to the effect of how Patrice would have a room dying laughing and half infuriated, and then they would reverse. You know, the half that was laughing would then be infuriated later by the same guy. And I think that's a great point about Patrice, but he also called him one of a kind, which I think Bill Burr is talking about here.
It's crazy because it's, you know, I mean, I've known quite a few people that have left us, but this one is just like,
it just hurts.
He's so fucking irreplaceable, you know?
Yeah, no, he's even beyond the description of one of a kind.
Yeah.
One of a kind is almost like hacky at this
That's
point.
too cliche, right?
Yeah, you're right. That's what I tweeted yesterday, you redheaded cocksucker, you. Go fuck yourself, Billy. What was that? He's making a good point.
Bobby, do you know something? Ever since we started doing these stupid movies and this goddamn book, do you know I now hate the sound of your voice?
That wasn't me, you fucking cocksucker. That was stupid Colin Quinn. You redheaded shit.
Remember Bill Burr? He was great at one time.
He's kind of in Voss territory with all them too.
It's very funny that like just hearing them talk about how, like, you know, it's funny to bust Colin's balls for saying he's one of a kind, but like I think what's so great about this episode is so many guys did deserve something like this and didn't have it. Like when Geraldo died, you know, like eventually there's a documentary made, but it's like it's done by people that, like, this was done by the perfect people at the perfect time to encapsulate Patrice O'Neal. You know what I mean? Like years later, people will talk about what a great comedian Mitch Hedberg is and how we lost him too soon. This was the next day where people were like, no, you don't understand this guy and how big a personality he was. And it is truly representative of what Patrice was. And so many guys don't get that. I think that's the beauty of this one.
Next, we have more with Colin.
Colin was a star on this episode as well. And I love Colin Quinn.
He always is, though, anytime he's in.
I really love Colin Quinn. What's amazing is it was revealed during all the Opie and Anthony and Jim Norton fighting that went on when the show was done. I believe Norton was the one that revealed, like, Opie thought Colin was bad on the air. And that's an astonishingly dumb thought.
Opie said that?
Evidently, yeah. Like, he wanted to have Colin on less. I think that's so wild because I think Colin Quinn is truly a genius and great on that show.
You trashed me and I missed it.
No, you trashed me. You called me a hack for saying he's one of a kind. Well, that was a really great, deep sentiment.
No, Colin, you're so old, your grandfather didn't be using that expression.
Yeah. And then you followed up with Patrice was aces in your book.
I thought he was just swell.
He's in cat's pajamas.
Colin said 5 words since he's come in here. He's just getting shit on.
As he should. As he should with that.
I think that was young Kurt Metzger slipping in there with the cat's pajamas line. And yeah, when Colin when he walked in, they're shitting on Colin's coat, saying it's an old lady coat, and just goofing on him before he even sits down. And there's one point where I forget exactly what they're talking about. You know, something gay or womanly or something. And Bobby goes, why don't you should put on Fag's coat. And Colin goes, I don't care for my new nickname. But that is what, to talk about Colin for a second, that's what made that show great. And I think what Tough Crowd I'm referring to, and what makes Colin so great is, and to, you know, while I'm thinking of Bill Burr as well, an issue I and a lot of people have with Bill Burr, like, Bill Burr made a movie. None of these guys are in it. You know? Like, Bill Burr had a cartoon. You don't hear any of these guys' voices. Colin took the opportunity to get a massive show when you think about what could have been. Like right after the Daily Show, when the Daily Show was about to explode.
Right.
And Colin gave all these guys an opportunity. Patrice, Keith, Geraldo, Nick DiPaolo, he gave an opportunity. Norton, all these guys. And Colin said, like, I want to ride with these guys. You know what I mean? I want to expose the guys that I think are the most talented and give them an opportunity. And that's what I really appreciate about Colin. But not just that, the fact that he would allow them to not just not be subservient to him, mock him endlessly. You know what I mean? And Colin wants it that way. He wouldn't have it any other way, where like you're kissing his ass because he's the host. And you look at, Opie, I don't want to make this an Opie episode, but like Opie was very resentful of that not happening. Where Colin's the perfect example of someone who understood it, like would not only take the beating, but encourage it and give it back to them better than anybody.
Next, we have spelling.
Okay, this is where like there are nice reliefs from the Patrice talk, and Bobby Kelly provided one of those.
He passed. Yeah, just he passed.
Sorry, I should set it up a little bit. Jim said one of the few laughs he was able to get in the last 24 hours was when Bob Kelly texted him about Patrice's death, and he's having Opie read the phone right now.
Stand what he wrote there.
No, don't. Yeah. Let's see if he does.
P-A-S-T.
Jesus Christ.
Wow. He passed.
Yeah, I'm sorry that our friend passed away and I fucked up on spelling, you nerd.
No,
I wish I met you back in high school. I would have beat the fuck out of you and took your money.
This is not you're not
Jeez, Bob.
This is not putting the I before
a little Norton going,
you spelled that wrong. Shut up. It's a basic.
Oh, right.
Just because Patrice died, that doesn't explain you being monumentally stupid. That's not the excuse. What did he die? Did he take your fucking brain with him?
It would be like pass, like P-A-S-S.
No, Keith didn't do it too.
He did.
Yeah.
He wrote it as intense.
I wrote it on the iPhone.
And then he gets into trying to explain why it's the iPhone's fault. The iPhone corrected him, and he also says he's laying down. Louis will come in later and beautifully dissect this interaction. Later in the episode, Louis is listening to all this and comes in with a list of thoughts, a list of critiques on the episode, which is also great. So we'll get into that in a bit, but we've got a few more clips before we get there.
Here we are on the execs.
So this is like, the big takeaway from Patrice's career is that, he didn't take any bullshit, but a lot of times like to his detriment, where he would almost go out of his way to make things uncomfortable with executives, which is a story that Colin brings up.
What Billy was saying about Patrice, I was thinking that just reminded me when we started doing the show, and before we did Tough Crowd, we did it on NBC a couple of times. And I remember I was always like, "Oh, don't leave him alone." It was just like so new to the business. It was like the only thing he'd ever had, and I knew like, don't leave him alone with any of these fucking NBC executives.
Oh shit, yeah.
And then I remember one time just walking in it, and it was like a soundproof office. Like every time I left him alone with Lauren, anybody, something horrible would happen. But just a soundproof office. And it was like some guy from the West Coast was in town. It was just him and the guy on the West Coast. And he was sitting there, and I looked over at the guy, and he had this horrified look on his face. And Patrice was talking as if, a couple of guys having a conversation. And I just walked in, and I heard like pussy and bitches. Like he was just like spouting to this like white guy in his 50s in a fucking suit. But just like as if he's having a conversation with fucking, Will at the cellar. Yeah. And it's just like the guy just had this horrified, like his face was pasty white. He gave no respect.
No.
And Patrice's philosophy was kind of like, and they talk about this later in the episode too, where Patrice was like, once I give an inch, like it's done. Like then I've accepted, like, is it a big deal that I take this curse word out of my set for this TV show? No, but then I've bent to them, and that just continues. Where you have someone like Burr, who was like a prolific generational talent that has bent so far now that people are like, what are you doing? Now you've bent so far that you've resurrected into something else. You know what I mean? Like you're being hypocritical to points that you were the one bringing up before anyone else. And I think that's a great example of why Patrice was so against giving into any sort of notes or things you're supposed to do. Like, that's why he would actively fight against it. But he also knew like how successful he was supposed to be. There's another line in here where Bobby he's like, he goes, I should be more famous. Patrice is saying this. I should be more famous. Like, you shouldn't be able to call me Bobby. He's like, you shouldn't just have my number.
Right.
It was just an amazing way to think of yourself. So he kind of had both, where it's like he didn't want to be famous, but knew he should be, which is amazing. There's very few people like that.
Next, we have mixtapes.
So this is a DeRosa story about making him a mix for a road trip they were taking.
He drove me out to one of Ant's barbecues one time. He's like, I'll pick you up. And I was so touched that he was giving me a ride that I spent 2 hours making him these rap CDs. I made him like 3.
Oh
my God, Colin, give him your code. Give him your code.
Did you talk songs to?
Who's the woman?
A young Amy Schumer.
And she's feeding into the fag joke?
Yes. This is where I defend Amy Schumer. People get it. She could have been like a good comic. I think in her, hey, like she was riding with this crew and like one of the guys at one time, and just I think fame ate her up. But yeah, she was in on this.
Personal story before every song.
Wow,
Joe.
I made him 3 rap CDs. I was like, these are songs he probably doesn't have. He'll
Now,
appreciate
Jerry,
this.
I imagine the band striking up the music.
Oh, what a show. Gee. Wow, dude.
Trying to do this now.
I can't.
What were some of the songs on there?
It was all rap songs.
Give me a couple.
They were all like,
I Need
like
Love
you're gonna
by
know any
Cool
of it.
J.
Yeah, I Need Love by Cool J.
Doing it.
Yeah, doing it well. Hey Love. Yeah.
You can do
Some
it, but
Boys
you're
to
back
Men.
into it.
It's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday. No, I made him like, I was like, dude, I appreciate you giving me a ride, man. I know you're not going to take gas money. I made you these. I thought you might enjoy these for when you're driving around.
Gas money.
Yeah.
He goes, oh, all right, like that, right?
You just came out of the closet to him, dude. That's why.
That's a long ride.
Oh, God damn.
He put every CD, I swear to God, every CD to put it in back to back, and he just sat there 2 seconds of each song. You go,
Oh, shit.
Next.
literally through each CD, and he goes, I mean, Joe, goddamn, I mean,
You didn't appreciate
I appreciate the gesture and all, I guess, but
You didn't recognize that you're a white rap historian?
wow. Yeah, I think there were.
Speaking of the diversity of the room, they mentioned later in the show, Norton goes, so I think someone said, why isn't Keith here? And I think he just couldn't make it for whatever reason. He was coming from Philly or something. And Norton goes, and Kevin, because they're like, where are all the black people? Why isn't Keith here? And Norton goes, and Kevin Hart might be in tomorrow. And Louis goes, and that about covers it. All the black guys that they had.
Next, we have Florentine.
This is a great Florentine story, too. I thought this was very funny. This is one of the piece of shit stories that he was saving that we heard about earlier.
I'll never forget, I was at the comic strip Christmas party, and I brought this girl, and she was really hot, and Patrice is just looking her up and down. He goes, you got this in the bag? I go, yeah. He goes, so I could say whatever I want? I go, yeah. He goes, you sure? I don't want to ruin it for you.
Why would you say
Why would you say yeah?
I was like, no, it's mine. So he just went over. He goes, you like this guy? And she's like, yeah, he's really funny. He's like, do you know his opening joke is the difference between alcohol and marijuana? You realize that? She's like, yeah, he's really funny. Yeah, I know that one. That's good. You realize he does voices of puppets on TV. That's my favorite show. And he goes, you're just a dumb bitch. And the girl's like, how can you say he's your friend? I'm like, he's joking. She's like, how is that a joke? He just called me a dumb bitch.
Holy fuck.
That is like the beauty of this, and that's so representative of Tough Crowd and Opie and Anthony, is the day after a guy died, telling a story where really, I think with the comedy heightens when this happens, because Louis is he's driving his daughters to school and he's listening to the show, and he's explaining them to who Patrice is, and he has a lot of notes, a lot of takeaways from earlier in the program.
I told my kids this morning about Patrice, and and I listened to, because I told them I'm going here afterwards, and then all his friends are going to be here, and so I turned it on, and there's fucking, is he here still? Bobby? Did he leave?
Bobby,
just left.
Hold on one second. There's just so many people in the room. Like that shows you how many people are there. That Louis is like, is Bobby here? Like just looking at a sea of comedians. I'm amazed at how well this flows.
Yeah.
When there are at times, I think like 9 or 10 people in the room. It's pretty crazy. And I just thought that Louis asking that represented that. Sorry to interrupt.
But is he here still? Bobby? Did he leave?
Bobby
just left. Yeah. I turned on it, and he's not even saying anything. He's just we're all at the fucking cellar last night, and he's just telling a story. He could be saying anything. He's like, we're all at the fucking cellar, and fucking what's his name is there, and fucking he's not upset. He's not. It's just this shit that comes out of his fucking mouth.
I think he just caught a pop.
And my daughter's just 6 and 9, and I'm going, I'm trying to ride the fucking volume. And they can't enjoy people's emotions about their fucking past friend because of this fucking. And so they go like, why does he? They had to ask, like, why does this person? Because it sounds crazy.
Yeah,
of course. If you don't listen to it all the time, it's like, what's wrong with this? It's beyond Tourette's. It's like that.
It's very funny to have someone outside the room kind of come in and capture things that people weren't even really noticing. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was such a great element to this. Bobby will respond later, but Bobby had to leave. He was shooting something, so he'll call in a little bit. But another line I mentioned, I have these like phrases that have stuck in my head from this episode, and another one of them is if you ever hear me say there was no call for it, it's because I'm thinking of this where he's describing Bobby cursing, and he keeps doing that impression, fucking this dude, and he goes, and I don't mind my daughter's hearing cursing, but that there's just no call for it. He's like, I'm a reasonable man, but Jesus.
Next we have race lawyer.
Yeah, so this is something a lot of people have cited about Patrice, where like his argumentative skills, and that's why he and Anthony had such great racial discusussions, is that Anthony is seemingly this closed-minded guy when it comes to race and politics and things. And Patrice was the one guy where they would have these discussions, and you would almost see Anthony kind of start to question even his own opinions that he was so dug in on. Like those are the only like truly open conversations you would hear Anthony have about politics. Like him and Burr would go back and forth, and there were other people that would debate with Anthony, but there was rarely anyone that could like get through to him the way that Patrice would. And that's kind of what Louis is pointing out here.
On the
Fucking
show,
cool.
I loved being on when he was on, because he'd get like we would lock horns on stuff and get like I told him once I wasn't attracted sexually to black women, and he tested me for like 2 hours, saying that meant I'm gay. He's like, it means I'm gay. And he said, so he would go like, and he started doing this bit where he'd be like, please bring up like, and it was like a lawyer asking for. He was like, please bring up fatbooty.com. Like, sites
Go to the website.
He's like, really? Nothing? There's nothing that you can, you know what, bring up? Yeah, you know,
that's juicy.
Pissing on blacktits.net. Anything could come up and he'd go, this? You don't like this?
Didn't he do that with Anthony also?
I'm sure it sounds familiar. Yeah. But like that he would have such unique angles on these things that it would have you questioning, like you hear Louis say there, like he's even questioning, like, does that mean I'm gay? Like, what is it? I don't understand.
Here's what you were referring to earlier, but Bobby's. Oh no, this is beforehand. They bring up Bobby's spelling again.
Oh yeah, so like I said, Louis has his notes, and that continues here, where he has a take on Bobby's earlier spelling argument when Bobby would try to defend himself after being called up by Norton.
Be quiet, Louis' kids are listening. Explain to your kids why they can spell better than Bobby.
Bobby. Yeah, I love how I heard that he called you a nerd because of how he spelled past.
Yeah.
P-A-S-T. You're a nerd. Like you only Bill Gates and Stephen Hawking and Jim Norton know how to spell fucking pass. He passed. That's like the caveman talking. He passed.
He passed me.
It's like a weird. It's like an E. Cummings poem about a dead guy. He passed. Fucking moron.
Hey, you nerd.
Yeah, sorry for paying attention at school.
Tries to turn it around on Jim like, oh, you're one of those guys.
Like it was a basic spelling error that everybody makes in a long and complicated word.
And then Louis later points out that then Bobby tries to reverse it and be like, no, I'm a nerd too, Jim, but it was the iPhone. Like Louis listened to all of it. It was like he listened to these clips individually. Like he really processed all of it. And that I love that, because when you talk about how this is like, the point that Rogan made earlier, where it's unlike any other platform, where else could you be having essentially a funeral for a guy, and halfway through, someone outside of it walks in and is like, hey, can I take a break from this Patrice stuff to shit on Bobby's spelling for a minute? I want to go back to that. Like, that doesn't happen anywhere. Like that's what's so great about this episode. It would take these turns that you weren't expecting at any point.
But that's also proof, like, he would prefer that.
Yeah, and it's how these guys were friends also. There is no phoniness here. Like when you hear Norton say they had a complete friendship, I think this episode is representative of all that with all these guys, where it's like they were actually Patrice's friends. It wasn't Seth Meyers tweeting out like, heck of a guy,
Right. This is Bobby calling.
Yeah, so Bobby catches wind of the fact that he's being mocked and is none too pleased.
Bob Kelly on the phone.
Shit. Hey, Bobby. Bobby, we were just talking about you.
Hey, guys, I know. I hate everyone in that. And fuck you, Louis.
Yeah, you've been jerking off to this the whole time. You love being talked about.
You stinky redheaded fucking piece of shit.
There goes with the fucking again.
Why would it hurt my feelings that my hair is red? It's been that my whole life.
Exactly.
It's the only thing you can come up with. You don't even have like a unique. I didn't say anything about how you look or just your basic.
You said his bald face.
Hardware.
You did say his bald face.
Well, after like a long, other acute.
Bald, you say you don't like me.
Yeah.
Fuck.
I didn't say I don't like you.
Yeah, fuck you.
I didn't
Fuck
one
you,
time say I don't like you. That's
Fuck
what
you,
heard.
Louis, with your 2 legs and your goddamn toes.
Fuck you. And I hope you kids are listening. Fuck them too.
Okay.
Bobby.
Brought him into the conversation.
And he just hung up on that one.
He said, I hope your kids are listening. Fuck them.
That's right.
Wow.
Dude.
I know you're listening too now, you idiot.
Right now, what he's doing. You know what, Dad? Right now, he's walking away, putting his phone, and he's trying to pull up his pants like a fat man does when he walks.
Trying to pull his pants up the bottom half of the egg of his body. And they got nowhere to hang.
There's no frick.
Norton with such perfect imagery describing an angry fat man walking. But like again, on a memorial show, a guy calls back in and tells someone to go fuck themselves.
Next we have probably the funniest part of this whole show, where Dave Attell comes in.
It's the line that we've used in the intro, a historic line. People still cite it to this day. When Attell like I said, everyone kind of has their moment in this. Attell walks in with like 30, 45 minutes left. He walks in basically at the end of this and steals the show.
Yeah, I think it's great that you guys are doing this, and it's a shock. And I don't know about anybody in this room, but because of Twitter and all that kind of stuff, I can't even process exactly what's happening or what happened, and it's just a horrible loss. So
yeah, it really is, and you see it on Twitter, and you see how many people love the guy.
Yeah, but how many ways paid to see him, huh?
Yeah, that's
I hate to be the
They come out of the
I hate to be
woodwork
the
now.
douche and bag of the conversation here, but yeah, everybody loves him for free. We got a purple suit to buy and a gigantic coffin. All right, let's make things happen. All right, enough hemming and hawing about it.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
999. What? Oh, sorry. That's the last time I was here. No, but I mean honestly, it's true. There's a lot of fans, and
Oh my God!
what? Well, what were you guys talking about before I got here?
No, Patrice, we didn't bring it up. We didn't bring it up.
Yeah.
Oh, the president's in town. You're right.
Yeah.
There's so many other
We're going
things
to talk
happening.
about that.
Holy shit.
It honestly felt like going to the Comedy Cellar, because it's like you have all these great comics killing for a few hours, and then Dave Attell comes in and levels everyone. He just comes into the end and closes. It's just phenomenal.
You could like hear like the room. There's so much people that the laughs are delayed as they're listening in the hallway.
Yeah. It was crazy. Like that line. I don't know why it's so beautiful. He picked the perfect a purple suit and a gigantic coffin.
I'm going to name that. That will be the name of this episode.
It is fitting, I suppose. Craig screwing over the algorithm, but that is actually perfect. Yeah, because that is how people think of this episode. I think that's the one universal takeaway from this. You know what I mean? Like, we cannot play all these clips or whatever. Everyone would expect us to have that clip: a purple suit and a gigantic coffin.
Purple suit is just so funny.
It's just such perfect imagery of Patrice, and it explains Dave Attell as a comedian so well. Like, if you listen to Skanks for the Memories, and like the way he chooses words is really unbelievable and unlike anyone else. And with Attell, you always think of where, like, you know, all the New York comedians have stories of him, like, you know, running jokes by them and being like, "Hey, does anyone else have a thing about a midget bowling at the circus?" And you're like, "No, Dave, no one else has that." Like, he always thinks he's like a hack or not unique or something, but like he's one of the most unique voices in the history of comedy. And that line is such a perfect encapsulation of that.
Next we have opportunities.
Another great Attell line in here, by the way, but they're talking about how you know, the opportunities that Patrice kind of blew, you know.
Remember when Chris Rock gave him that speech?
Oh boy.
Chris Rock gave
Well, I
Patrice was
remember
in.
because Chris and I, when we were doing this fucking stupid Pootie Tang, we were auditioning people, and Patrice was, for both of us, one of our favorite guys.
Yeah.
We loved Patrice, and we wanted to put him in the movie. And I don't remember which part it was, but there was a big, huge part that was his.
Oh, shit.
As long as he just walked in and just made a basic effort.
And Louis, he was a good actor, right? He was a really good actor.
He could act. He was really good. And so it was just, let's, you know, and anyway, Chris and I were working on it together at the time and doing a bunch of things at once. And that audition that he did took place without us there. So we saw a tape, and we just see him walk in with this script at his side and his big hand. And he just looks at the camera like, do I have to do this right now? And he kind of picks up the script with this big, all right. And just starts reading the lines like, this is shit. I hate this. You could see the sweat on his face said, like, I had to walk here from whatever. Yeah. I hate this. And we're like, we really wanted to give him the part, but we couldn't. Wow. But we talked about that he was wasting opportunities because of how much talent he had. Yeah. And if he could make a few little adjustments to doing exactly what he wants every 10 seconds. I mean, you know, he might have been seen by more people. It's hard because we love the guy because he was like that. And when he made it to 40, it was like, all right, you made it to 40 this way. Now it's working. It's just starting to work. But if he had taken, you know, again, I'm angry he didn't take better care of himself. It's part of your job. If you're given, you know, he was giving a vital ingredient to America comedy.
Right.
And he deprives everybody of it now because he fucking wouldn't stop drinking grape soda. So and eating McDonald's.
He loved Spike Lee loved him too, and he was in 25th Hour. And Spike uses the same guys over and over and over.
Yeah,
really?
And yeah, he does. I've seen all.
I see Spike in here, do you?
There's a good reason. There's a reason for that, Dave.
Okay, go ahead.
This is called. This is a black bridge that was burned.
That Attell delivery again. So, oh, really? So great. And also, that's another thing I'm glad, like Louis kind of included again, making this such a unique memorial where it's very rare you hear someone say the day after they die, where Louis like, I'm mad at him because he deprived American comedy of that voice because he wouldn't stop eating McDonald's and drinking grape soda.
I was about to say that's as sentimental as this episode gets, and it's just someone being pissed at him. Actually,
yeah, like mad. He was mad at him, but it is like that's a true emotion that a lot of people feel and are afraid to vocalize, and that's again I know I keep saying it, but like what's so amazing and perfect about this episode. But yeah, Norton tells a story about how Spike Lee wanted him in a movie, and Patrice was like, nah, no. And that like the shame is he was really just finding his voice. It's thank God he got Elephant in the Room in.
I know.
And the Charlie Sheen roast, I would say. Like really right under the wire.
No kidding.
Thank God he got those things in. And because Louis says it on this episode, he goes, for a long time, Patrice was better in here, meaning the Opie and Anthony studio. He goes, I think Patrice was a lot better in here than he was on stage for a long time until Elephant in the Room. Like, that's where he really started to figure out. And I think Mr. P is also a great album, and he has other good stuff, obviously, like his, HBO Half Hour and stuff like that. But, like, Elephant in the Room truly is a great special. And with a guy like Patrice, it just seems so unlikely that his second special would have been worse. You know what I mean?
Right.
It seems impossible to believe that. And that's why people are so mad that happened, because they're like, God, what was stripped of us? Like what we could have had. And that really is the shame. But like, he really was a good actor. Like, limited. But if you go watch like the couple episodes of The Office he's in,
they're good.
The one line where he tells Kelly basically she wants to fuck him. Like he delivers that line so well.
Yeah.
Like, and he's in Arrested Development. He's funny and limited scenes in that. Like, there's not a ton of Patrice acting out there, but like he is genuinely very good. So yeah, it's just a shame in a lot of ways that there wasn't more for him. But the only reason he's Patrice O'Neal is because he didn't take those opportunities. You know, like if he was more flexible with executives and things like that, we wouldn't be doing these episodes about him, and people wouldn't have the reverence for him that they do. So, it's a double-edged sword in a lot of ways.
Next, we have Reading People.
And obviously, one of the great abilities.
Slam People on that show was I remember watching him and Marin on there one time, and Marin's fucking hilarious. So they started talking about the Bible, and Marin goes, it ended when it needed to end. What if there was a third testament? And he started into this Mark Marin thing. Like you can hear it start. He goes, He goes, and let's say the third testament opens up, and he got that far, and you just hear Patrice off camera go, "Shut up, Mark."
Did you already watch the clip of him trashing that fan? A tough guy.
That was a good one.
That's so great because that fan wants to stick to his Vietnamese guns of doing that voice.
Yeah.
I bet she just won't fucking. He's like, will you pull out of the Vietnam Matrix?
He'll have no part of it. Yeah.
And he's just, because it's all his insults. It's like what you were just talking about. All his insults are like insightful. Like he scanned you and figured your shit out.
Yeah. Exactly, man. Yeah, he didn't just throw out shit that was surface insults. he knew what the fuck would get you.
He profiled people extremely well, extremely well,
quickly too.
And that's why when he smashed you with something, it was like, oh,
it was personal.
You walk into the Comedy Store and he'd stare you down for like 20 seconds. You knew it was coming. You're like, all right.
And then you got a personalized bashing.
The worst.
He's been looking at you with the red Terminator screen, like doing an analysis, breaking it down.
He walked people in regular life, not just a show.
Just in conversations. Walk away from him.
That's super fucking funny.
And I've heard Dan Soder talk about this, where there's no gatekeepers in comedy. And he's saying it in a bad way. Like, unfortunately, there's no keepers of comedy. And the two he refers to are Patrice O'Neal and Nick DiPaolo, because they would fucking decimate you if you were being a hack. And in a way, Patrice was trying to help. Like, if you go watch that episode of Tough Crowd with Dat Fan that Kurt Metzger brought up, and we've made fun of Dat Fan before. And what's amazing is, over 20 years later, Dat Fan has not changed his comedy at all.
No.
He does the Vietnamese accent and talks about, like, it's the same horseshit decades later. And if you watch that clip, like, him and Voss are tearing him apart, but you hear Patrice literally trying to help Dat become a comedian.
Right.
You know, he's like, say something without doing a funny accent right now. He would make him do it. And Dat couldn't break out of that. And of course, what that tells you is I don't think Dat Fan was ever capable of that. But I think there's probably a lot of guys in comedy that benefited from that. Like Kevin Hart has a story of being on stage and he was bombed.
Yeah, this is the best.
And Voss and Patrice are heckling him. And at one point, they throw a phone book on stage and just go, read that. It's funnier than what you're doing up there. So, like, I think there's a lot of guys that benefited from that. And we're not hacks because of guys like Patrice and Voss and DiPaolo and Colin and these guys at the Cellar that kind of curated all that and called it out for what it was. I don't know if there's any of that anymore. You know, there's no young voice. Like, you know, Colin will still talk about it and guys like that, but there's no young peer that others don't just respect, but are like kind of afraid of. That was the thing with Patrice, is a lot of people were like afraid to piss him off.
Right.
There's no one like that now saying like, hey, stop posting crowd work clips. They're corny. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, there's no one calling that shit out. Stop having a thumbnail where you're laughing your ass off. You know what I mean? Like, stop doing these cliche things. You know, there's no governor on that anymore. And that's what Patrice was so great at. And it's just a void that's never really been filled in comedy. You see guys try and do it now. Like I just mentioned Soder, like he'll take that mantle once in a while, but there's no one that has the bite to them the way Patrice did, you know?
Right. But we're at our last clip.
All right. Let's hear it.
You guys do that roast of Patrice at
Boston,
Boston Comics?
I believe Boston.
Because I remember all the comics were like, hey, there was like a big wave of people like, what's all the excitement? Where's everyone going? They're like, they're roasting Patrice over at the like it was like a lynching in the 20s. These guys who are no longer comics and just like weird, like ventriloquists were running over, magicians, everybody like, we're gonna get him. And then all these long faces leaving because Patrice can hold his own.
Yeah, and they're like, that's what was so great about him, is like he kind of loved when people would go back at him. And as a sensitive boy myself, I really respect that in people, when you realize like, oh, they kind of want you to give them shit back. You know what I mean? Like they actually like appreciate it, and it's what makes them respect you. Like that's a very unique and I think admirable quality. And obviously Patrice had it, because he did not wilt in that roast by any means. A man who did is Keith Robinson, but we covered that in a previous episode. We've done, I believe, 4 other Patrice episodes, I think. So go back and check those out. If this is your first one, go back and check those out. We've done kind of a general Patrice episode. We covered Elephant in the Room, Mr. P, and the roast of Patrice, I believe, are the other episodes we've done. So Check all of those out on Why Are You Laughing, past episodes, and consider becoming a member of this program. Blindmike.net is where you can get those links. Become a member on Patreon and YouTube. Subscribe wherever you get podcasts. Helps more people find the show. If you like and comment and all that good stuff, share it with a friend. Tell people about Why You Laughing and go through the archives if you've missed any episodes. So shout out to Patrice O'Neal, a true legend, a voice that is missed so much. Like I said, maybe only Norm Macdonald is the only other voice I can think of that I miss more in comedy, and just one of those guys that you think, fuck, I wish he was here to talk about this. And who knows how it would have, how things would be different in comedy. Like I said, I didn't even mention that. Like I just mentioned a guy being here to talk about crowd work, just the state of comedy, not even the state of the world. It would be interesting to hear what Patrice thinks about all these podcasters that have gotten famous, reaction channels like ours. Like he would probably shit on that. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of stuff out there that I think would be different if you had a voice like Patrice kind of wagging his finger, someone that people respected, you know? Yeah. But we'll never know. We're left to do whatever we want because there's not a voice out there like that. So rest in peace, Patrice O'Neal, as we always say at this time of year. November 29th, 2011, I believe we lost him. And also, happy Harassment Day. I don't know exactly how this lines up, but I believe this is coming out the day after Harassment Day, if I'm not mistaken.
On Thanksgiving itself?
Oh, yes, the audio will be up on Thanksgiving. So 2 days after Harassment Day.
Yeah.
Tuesday before Thanksgiving. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening, and we will talk to you next time on Why Are You Laughing?
Zip it up and zip it out.